Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining our podcast, Moms on the Move. I'm Jen Wills.
And I'm Jennifer Siss.
We have Karin Freeland with us today. She is the author of this amazing, hilarious book called The Ins and Outs of My Vagina, a penetrating memoir.
It is penetrating.
Best title ever.
Thank you.
I knew it obviously got everyone's attention. And my husband was like, what are you reading? So I told him because I was cracking up. First, I tried to get a summary. Like I started, you know how they'll give you like a little brief overview of the book?
Yeah.
So I like read the overview and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm buying this.
Thank
So
you.
I was reading it and it's not, I mean, I feel like the title is just, you don't know what to expect.
Right.
You don't.
Right.
But the book is just, it's so like honest and raw and like relatable. So it's basically just about growing up and like all the events growing up that I feel like so many people can relate to.
Yeah, that no one talks about.
Correct.
So we
No one
sit
talks
around
about.
going like, I'm weird. I'm the only one this has happened to. And
I'm
in reality,
awkward.
we're all going through the exact same thing, but we just don't talk about it. So we feel like we're alone. So
Yeah. So it was like getting your first period and first kiss. And like your first kiss I could relate to because my first kiss also had an audience and I
Of course.
cried.
Oh, no, you did?
I did.
Oh, that's awful.
And it was like my boyfriend,
Right.
you know? So I think he was my boyfriend of like a week or something. But then the next time at school, then I had to break up with him. Because
Of
I was
course.
obviously uncomfortable.
Yeah.
My
yeah.
first kiss was just gross.
Oh.
Was it just a peck?
It was just gross.
Just
Well,
gross.
Nobody knew what they were doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the funny part too. It's like you're talking about navigating all this stuff and it's like you felt it. Like I was like reminiscing.
Did it take you back?
Yes. And I'll never, yes, it took me straight back and I was like, oh my God, I'm not the only one.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You get to relive your life and your stories as you're reading mine. So I've gotten so many text messages from people who've read the book and they're like, this is how I lost my period. Or, telling me all these stories and how they literally were transported back to like junior high. So,
And like trying to figure out like, I don't want to wear a pad.
yeah.
Like just how long you spent trying to figure that out.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
It's like modern day Judy Blume. You remember
Yes.
that? Are you there?
No, I
Dad?
actually didn't read that.
I read a few of
That's
those.
because you're younger
Yes.
than me.
I mean,
That's what was around when I was
yeah.
learning these things. And now you have this.
Right.
Exactly.
Now you have that.
It's like the Bible for, all things women. Like,
Right.
It needs to be a household staple.
It does.
I have
So
daughters.
you heard it here first. Go grab the book.
It is really funny. I'm trying to think like other hilarious parts.
Well, the way it's broken down, so just for
Yeah.
the listeners, right, is it's an 8-part book. So it starts all the way from like day one where I'm 5 years old and I even discover like, hey, what is this thing between my legs? All the way to chasing the orgasm and trying to figure out like, is my body broken? Should this be happening more? Like, is something wrong with me or is this normal? But again, nobody's talking about it. And so it's this whole comedic journey of all the things that we go through as women. And UTIs are discussed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, using toys for the first time is discussed. So, I mean, like nothing is off limits.
So you married your college boyfriend.
I did.
I love that. And it's funny because I didn't know that. I like got to the part last night where you said, and we got married and then we started like the childhood journey and all that. And actually it was really funny because the part that I stopped on was when he was jealous of your relationship with your dog.
Oh, yeah. That was like,
I hope my husband's not listening, but literally last night he sends me a text and he goes, do you want me to come up? And I didn't respond because I was reading your book. And so he actually comes out and he's like, hey. And I was like snuggling with my dog. And I was like, no, I'm busy. And then I read that part and I was like, it was so funny. It was the most perfect timing ever. I was like, yep, very relatable.
There it is.
I just chose my little 12-pound dog in your book.
Yep, it happens. But it is that kind of book. It's such an easy read. And a lot of people who have said, like, I don't read books, but I could not put your book down. So that's been great feedback as a first-time writer, you know, to hear that people love the storytelling. They're totally captivated by these stories. So
how does your husband feel?
So shocker, it was his idea.
Oh my gosh.
So when you get to the chapter all lubed up with nowhere to go, you'll see the full story. But essentially, I'll give a little bit of it away. So you heard it here first. When I was pregnant with my first son, my OB said that you should prepare your body for birth. So that entailed apparently getting some olive oil, putting it on your fingers, and rubbing the vulva to stretch it out. And so that you don't tear. I was like, thanks for the advice, lady. I'm outie. Like, I'm not doing this. Right? Peace out. Well, of course, V, who is a character in the book, my vagina. So we literally have like all this banter and back and forth. And it's a very intimate relationship that we have. She gets bored one Friday night and is like, we're doing this thing. And I'm like, I don't know. Okay, we'll try it. And it's a shit show. I don't know. Can I say that word?
Yes, you can.
A complete disaster. I mean, olive oil is like flying everywhere. And so my husband comes home from work and he's like, Why is there olive oil in the bathroom? And why is it all over the floor? So I have to try to explain to him what I've been doing. And he's like, you have to be kidding me. He's like, you know what you should do? And I'm thinking, what advice does this guy have for what I should do to prepare my body for birth? But okay, lay it on me, buddy. And he's like, you should write a book and call it I Don't Know My Vagina. Because it is clear you have no idea how this thing works. And of course, at first I was like, that's really dumb. Why would I do that? Who would even read that book? What would be the purpose? But there was a seed that was clearly planted. And I started brainstorming all these stories. And I was like, oh, there's that time I lost my virginity. And the time that
was hilarious.
Right, and that's you don't see that coming, right?
No, I did not see that coming.
That ending's a shocker. We can't give that away. You got to read the book for that one. So there were all these stories that were just building up in my mind. And I thought, I have to tell this story. Like, this is something that women can totally relate to and will need to hear just to even sort through all the experiences they've had, right? And just get to know themselves on a more intimate level.
Yep, it's so true. You need to read it. It
do.
really is.
I'm ready.
And you also had serious parts of the book. Like you had your miscarriage part, and that was super relatable for so many people. She actually like had this one, and it's super graphic, and you know this might trigger people. But when you went to the bathroom, and then you flushed, and you were like said that was one of your biggest regrets ever.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's something that's like real life. And I have actually had that exact conversation with my sister, my friends who have been through that. And that's like a traumatizing event.
Yeah, no one prepares you for that. And it was hard for me because as I was thinking about the book, and I always do pitch it as a very comedic book because 95% of it is comedic.
Yes.
And so there was a moment where I thought, do I want to include my miscarriage or not? And there were so many reasons that I went back and forth. You know, part of me was like, I don't want to make this, I don't want it to lose its specialness either and its traumatic impact. And so I don't want to make light of something like that. But it felt like it was such a momentous moment for my vagina. And
also relatable.
Yes, that I was like, I have to talk about this because there's so many women suffering in silence who have just recently lost a baby or even, you know, years ago like me and have no one to talk to about it. Don't know how to feel. And so they just keep it all bottled up inside. And when I went to the bathroom and I saw my baby, what was supposed to be my baby, on a tissue, there's not even words to those emotions.
And is that a right thing to do?
Yeah,
like
I don't.
Your mental, I mean,
it's just trauma.
It's trauma.
It's trauma and loss and grief. All
in one.
Right there. Oh.
Yeah. And you can't unsee that. You know, it's like one of those things that's just forever etched in your brain. And so I talk about what happened. And then when I go to the ER and they're asking me questions about where the fetus is, and I'm like, what do you mean, where is it? What was I supposed to bring? You know, it's just so many things. So then you feel guilty. Did I do the wrong thing? And for years I held that in. So it was very therapeutic writing the book.
I'm sure.
Also, to get a lot of that out.
What about your parents? Did they read it?
Well, sort of. No, my dad, no. My dad has literally been radio silent. He's like, I'm like, I wrote a book. He's like, it's nice weather out. You know what I mean?
I'm proud of you.
Exactly. So I think that's how I would sum it up. They are proud of me for following my dreams, for actually pursuing this and seeing it all the way through and launching a book. But I'm sure they would rather it was a murder mystery or a young adult fantasy or anything other than a memoir about my vagina. But my mom, I told her, look, you can read the first 7 chapters. And so she did. And she was like, okay.
What a terrible little child.
Right? And then she gets flipping through the book, just looking at some of the other chapter headings. And she's like, oh, Myrtle Beach. I remember when she went to Myrtle Beach. So she opens up that chapter and starts reading about me on spring break in Myrtle Beach and basically the hottest sex of my life. And I'm like, oh my God. So she literally gets I don't know, a couple pages in, and she's like, and we're done. And she literally calls me. She's like, I'm out. I'm not reading any more of this book.
I don't even know you anymore.
Yeah, she's like, there are some things a mother does not need to know about her daughter. And I was like, yeah, that's what I've been telling you. I don't want you to read it. This is the best news ever.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But I think, most of the reception has been great, and anyone who has read it, I mean, it's all 4 and 5-star reviews on Amazon. Everyone has said this is a book for the ages. This is so funny, so relatable, and unlike anything you've ever read before. It's very unique.
Well, it's funny. I have had, there was one time I was at the gym and I had someone say, you should have just a group of girlfriends and have a conversation on the podcast. And I was like, no one would talk. Yeah. Because you just wouldn't open up like that. So you'd end up being like, so what'd you have for dinner last night?
And we have to change that because there's so much stigma around the word vagina. I mean, my ads on Instagram all blocked. I cannot advertise the book because I'm instantly categorized as adult content.
Yes.
And granted, this book is not for 12-year-old girls, in my opinion. I think 18 and up, 16 if you have a very mature child. There are adult things obviously discussed in here, but it is not in any way any worse than half the stuff you see on Netflix.
Right.
I mean, this is
very
a healthy marriage.
And it's actually, I feel like it shows just the growth of life. It shows how at your awkward times, and then you go into when you're a little more comfortable with yourself, and then it shows the maturity when you start when you get married and you have babies, and all the emotions are so relatable there. I felt like it was just the whole book was relatable. I mean, just all of it.
Yeah.
So,
and it was meant to be like that, right? It's kind of it is a conversation that you would have with your girlfriends, right? Maybe after a couple of glasses of wine to loosen you up. And just meant to get these conversations going because that's the only way we change the stigma, right?
Yes.
That's the only way we make it okay to say an anatomically correct word. It's a medical term. It's like saying...
I don't like the word.
Well, I don't really either. I'm not a huge fan of it.
I just don't. I don't, but I don't know what... Yeah, I don't know the other... Bennett, my oldest, told me I had a front butt.
Oh. Leave it to the kids to come up with a fun name for that.
So instead of
this would be good for a book club for women.
Yes.
And I have a book club guide on my website if you're interested. So you can actually download the PDF and it takes you through all 8 parts and asks different questions that you can ask at your book club to get some dialogue going.
What's some questions?
Well, I talk about the first time you lose your virginity, how did you lose your virginity? It happens. There's a lot of emotions wrapped up in that moment. And I don't know about you, but I thought I'm going to be on a bearskin rug and what was that song? Phil Collins' One More Night is going to be playing because this is what I saw on the soap operas growing up. So my whole idea of what good sex or, I didn't know it was sex even, just what romance looked like came from soap operas. So I'm like, shouldn't I be facing this way and then you'll be back here blurry behind me? And then, you know what I mean? How they would set up the cameras. I really thought it was all going to go down like that. And then you're at a party with music bumping and a lava light next to you. And you're like, okay, I guess this is how this is going down.
Yep. That's pretty much it.
Yep. So, yeah.
And then after I
you know where my age is now when I mention black lights. And
Were you happy or sad, Jen?
I was not happy. I was and then we broke up again. After. I was I can't. Nope.
Yep.
Done. Again.
Yep. We're sealing that one in the vault. We just pretend that didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
Yep.
All the things.
Yes.
I won't ask you when you.
Well, I was just wondering if I should say anything because
So with your husband.
I am the anomaly.
Oh my God, I knew it. I knew it.
I know.
Beautiful. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, but when you're talking about the first time, it's interesting because I am that anomaly, and my husband's the only person I've been
Oh
with
my God.
in that way. And I know.
I know. I think that's beautiful.
Look, I have some flowers for you.
The thing that's so funny about the first time was that I had no idea, right? And so it was after we were married. And so there were roses on this tub, and
This is like what you thought.
I don't think I realized that it's kind of hard to in the tub because of water and messes things up. I didn't know that. I thought it was beautiful. In the tub action, and then knocking the flowers in the tub, and
So it wasn't what
we
you
just gave up. Yeah.
Right.
Later. But anyway, shh.
Yeah, don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anyone.
But anyway, that was for me, that's how it went. But, of course, we figured it out. I figured it out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That is
I
super
was,
special.
I was one of those really good girls.
Good
Yeah.
for you.
And I think it's so hard, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but like when we say like I
You
was one
can't
of the
put me on the spot.
like I was a good girl, right? We're also then like, okay, well I am sexually curious, so am I a bad girl?
Right.
And I know you didn't mean it that way, but it's just how we
A conversation.
talk. Right.
It's true.
Well, you also have to remember this was, I'm 53 years old. This
Sure.
was a long
Yeah.
time ago.
Yeah,
So,
and I'm 41 for context. But we have decided that the way we're raising our children is also wait till marriage. That's the message that we're giving them. That's the message I got. I obviously did not put that into practice. So, at the end of the day, the kids are going to do what they want to do. But the difference between how I'm raising my kids and how my parents raised me, I mean, and nothing against them, they did the best they could, is that sex education doesn't stop at the, hey, you wait for marriage. And good luck figuring out when you get there. Like, we're not doing that yet, right? It's, hey, this is how it works. This is a penis. This is a vagina. This is how you make the baby. Right. And, now my kids are curious. My son goes the other day, we're walking in just around the neighborhood or whatever. And he's like, Mom, I have a question for you. I'm like, sure, bud, shoot. What? He's like, how long does the process take? And I'm like, what process? Like, what are we talking about? He's like, when you're making the baby, like, how long does it take? And I'm like, I'm like, well, it could be, the process itself could be 30 seconds. I'm like, but you can last as long as you're having fun. He's like, okay, that's enough.
I told my son when he asked a question, I tried to talk about the period and how they get pregnant, and they were in the back seat of the car, and my little one was still in the car seat, but my other one was older. They were in the car seats for a long time now.
Sure.
But anyway, when I was telling him, my youngest one goes, Mom, Michael's getting nauseous. I'm like, okay, I went too far.
Yeah.
I was just trying to explain it in black and white terms.
Right.
What a period is.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's very upsetting. That's what it is.
And my kids know, like, they cannot read the book. And one time when I was writing, they snuck up behind me. And I didn't know. Thank goodness I was on a tamer chapter. But all of a sudden, I just hear from behind me, was your vagina really bleeding? And I was like, yes, it's called a period. And then I had to explain the whole thing. And so now, I forget the other day I said something. And I was like, yeah, well, I got my period. So watch out or something. Just giving them like a heads up. Like, I might be grouchy. And my son was like, oh, are you just like bleeding in your underwear? And the other one goes, she's wearing a tampon, duh. And I was like, okay. So like, it's sinking in. They're getting it.
They're getting it.
And they're not afraid
in a
to
healthy
say
way.
tampon.
Right. In a healthy way. And in the right way.
No, I never know. Like, we're actually going to have a podcast on the birds and the bees. There's going to because I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
We all have boys, and it overwhelms me. And apparently you're supposed to start the conversation when they're like 7.
Yeah.
Which is what Bennett is. They ask me where's the baby come out of? And I'm like, I'm like, you want ice cream?
They'll just get nauseous if you try to tell me.
So I don't know how. I'm like, I'm going to wait for that podcast and then we'll sit down.
Yeah. Sometimes a book is helpful, like if you're scientifically approach it to start, like we had a book called Marvelous Me and it was all the things about your body. And so I remember as a kid.
I remember my mom gave me a book and I wouldn't read it. I was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
You might have to read it to them.
Right. Yeah, I think I told her, I was like, I'm not talking about this with you.
Yeah. That's not my specialty, though. I don't know. Good luck with that. I'm still trying to figure that out myself.
Yeah. So your childbearing years.
Yes.
So you said you had like torn and you had all that happen too.
Yeah.
And I feel like you go through all these like, stages of life when you change, and then I don't know, it's like there's something that happens like after you have your kids where then you feel different again.
Mm-hmm.
And like with Bo, I had a horrible tear. But like mentally, everything we freaking go through as women, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about it. We're expected to just like hop back on the saddle and be like fine and normal after like this traumatic birth.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Yes. And I just kept thinking like, when the whole olive oil thing didn't
work.
go well, I'm like, just let loose vaginas or big heads or small heads run in my family. Like, I don't care which, but like, I do not want to tear. And of course, like anything, as a coach, right? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So the more you say, I don't want to tear, your brain hears tear. And of course, then I tore. And I did not catch soon enough that the stitches had not taken. And so I finally got the courage to kind of look and see what was going on down there. And it was just kind of like hanging
like
there,
horrifying.
sadly. So yes, and I just remember thinking like, oh my God, my life is over. My life is over. My sex life is over. That means my regular life is over. Everything is just over. What am I doing? Why did I have children? I didn't sign up for my body to be like this. I'm just done. And so I was like, I'm going to get vaginoplasty. That's what I'll do. I'll get a surgery.
Never heard of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
but it's like 10 grand. And so then I was like, I'm not getting vaginoplasty. What else am I going to do? I'm going to cry myself to sleep over
right? Mine were zippered out, so I didn't have to worry about any of that because my children were like this big.
Oh, right.
So they couldn't even attempt to
come through that way.
No. Yeah. So they were zippered out. But that's traumatic too because it's major surgery. It's major surgery.
It is. Yes. And the recovery time is
all
longer.
major.
It is all major.
That's what's so
birthing and babies
crazy to me, that like some of these people, like maternity leave is 6 weeks sometimes. To think what you go through, emotionally and physically and like all of it, it's wild to me that there is even remotely a 6-week expectation.
I could not have gone back to work, especially with the second one, because with the second one, I experienced diastasis recti, also known as like a hernia, where my abs literally separated. So the fascia that held me together, gone. And I was laying in bed one night and I knew something was wrong because I was really losing the baby weight quite quickly. And I was like, I think I can feel my intestines. I was like, babe, come check this out. Feel this. I'm like, I think that's my poop. And he was like, that's disgusting. He's like, you need to go get that checked out, like get to a doctor. And so I went, and my mom happened to be in town, and I also was a victim of the pup rash, which only
I had that too.
Oh my God.
No, only 10% of women have that.
I had that too.
I had it with my first one. Bad.
Horrible. So I was itching like crazy.
I had it on my chest.
My stomach is a mess, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? And I go to the doctor, and he's like, oh, you're going to need massive surgery. And it was like, I was postpartum, which I didn't tell anyone either because I was embarrassed. And I was just crying, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And all I kept thinking was, I'm supposed to go back to work. How am I going to do this? I need to have a surgery. I'm not going to be able to pick up my baby for 6 to 8 weeks. How am I going to do this with a newborn? And it was so incredibly overwhelming. And I felt so isolated. I felt so alone. And yeah, my mom was there and she could help out, but she didn't understand. She never went through any of that with her births.
Right.
So it was very mentally challenging.
What happened? Did you end up?
I ended up having the surgery in December, so I went back to work. He was born in June. I went back to work for 3 months and then went back out December 1st. Had the surgery and went back sometime middle of January and was kind of like remote at first and then came back full time after 8 weeks. But, I was so scared to take off the band that
Yeah.
goes around my stomach. I felt very nervous that I was going to pop a suture or do something wrong, because it was major surgery.
Yeah.
And it was not fun. And I don't talk a lot about the surgery in the book, but I mean, I was over medicated in the hospital. I was having hallucinations. I mean, seriously, like one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through.
Yeah.
Way worse than the actual births themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I feel like it's so much. And then so you were in corporate for a while. And what was that moment when you were like, I'm done?
Yeah. So I spent 16 years mostly in B2B marketing, lots of Fortune 500 brands, very successful, had the 6-figure salary, everything on paper looked great, marriage, a house, a Benz, all that good stuff. And I was dying inside. I was so miserable. I felt like this is not what I signed up for. I did not sign up to make PowerPoints to justify my existence to other people. Like there's a bigger purpose for me, but I don't know what it is. And so I felt really stuck. So I drank a lot and I was like, maybe the answer's in the bottom of a wine bottle. I don't know. And after several months of that, I was like, well, the answers clearly aren't there. This isn't helping. I still feel like this. And one of the defining moments, I mean, it was death by 1,000 paper cuts for sure. But one of the very defining moments was my son was very sick and I had to pick him up from school. And I was actually annoyed. I was like bothered by the fact that I had to go pick him up because mommy's job's very busy and I have a lot of work to do. So I shove him in his bed and I'm like, Daddy will be home at 4. He'll take you to the doctor's. Like, just hang on for a couple of hours. So I go back to the computer and start working. My husband comes home, checks his temperature. He's 103. And he comes out and he's like, Karin, if you paid half as much attention to your family as you did your children, or you did your job, and I was like, and like literally in that moment, I was like, who have I become?
Yeah.
Who am I? This is not me. This isn't why I had children. I didn't sign up for this. And so it was just a culmination of all these things in my life that I just wasn't happy with. And I was watching The Secret. And
I love that.
Yes.
100 times.
Oh, if you haven't
Watch
seen The
that.
Secret, you have to go watch it. It's
That's
so
'cause you're
good.
a coach.
I
Just
know.
do that.
We do. We love that
The
stuff.
Secret.
It's all about the law of attraction. So if you put something out into the universe and you say you want it to happen, then good things will happen and it'll be manifested.
If you work toward it and progress toward it and you have the energy for it.
That's the
Exactly.
key.
You can't just sit in your couch and lazy boy and expect it to happen. But
Amen.
I want that.
I know. Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be
Yeah.
nice, but it doesn't work like that.
Secret is amazing.
Jack Canfield, who is the author for Chicken Soup for the Soul, was talking about his book and how he got all these series written was through action, not just believing it, but actually putting one foot in front of the other, one word on paper at a time. And it was like a bolt of lightning where I go, oh, my memoir that I started in 2009, it's now 2019, 10 years later.
Wow.
And this has been sitting on my laptop with just a chapter here and a chapter there written. And I had about 40,000 words that I had amassed. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's it. This is my goal. I'm going to write this book. I'm going to follow through on my dream and we're going to make this happen. And that was it. Like from that moment, I was like, that's at the end of 2021. I was like, I am going to resign, package or no package. Like I'm out. And the universe, God, whatever your beliefs are, was like, nope, girlfriend, you're out sooner. So August 12th, I got the call that my position had been eliminated in corporate.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And it was like, it's time to fly. And everything has just been lining up so perfectly from that moment that I said, nope, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to do this.
I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah. It's amazing what the universe and God will take care of when you just surrender it.
You make the decision. You make
do.
the decision, things will come your way. That's awesome. That is so awesome.
So you're a life coach.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I know.
I'm like always in between.
Maybe you should be a coach too.
No. I'm still a mental case, even though I have smart women around me all the time.
All good. All you have to do is be a couple of steps or a couple of chapters ahead of whoever you're supporting. But yeah, it was as I was going through this midlife crisis and I was writing the book, I turned around all of a sudden and I was like, I have just literally changed my entire life. We packed up our whole family from New Jersey. We moved to South Carolina, just simplified our life infinitely. And I was like, this is what it's all about, being in the driver's seat. Like, I got to help other women to do this. And so I got certified and now I have a small boutique firm where I coach women one-on-one and just help them figure out what their true purpose is, help them own their power, because that's always important. We have more power than we think we do. That might be setting boundaries or whatever.
Yeah.
And then really help them build that pathway to freedom, whatever that looks like for them.
It's
like what you
different
do.
for everybody.
I know.
It is what I do.
Yeah.
She's got
Yeah.
quite a niche. I was just telling her earlier, I do all things life, and I also work with men, women, and children.
Right.
Wow.
So
yes.
but it's so important to know your worth, to know their worth.
Yes.
For them to know.
Yeah. You
it's
touched
awesome.
on recently too, like just when you're unhappy in a job,
Oh yeah.
you know, because I feel like women, you put the pressure on yourself and, you know, you feel irresponsible or selfish for
Yes.
making a move. And I was relating that, like I did accounting forever and then I decided to do real estate. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm being like just kind of reckless in a way. But anyway, so much happier. So much happier.
No, I mean, I can totally relate to that. I was the breadwinner.
Mhm.
I was the one bringing in all the money. So
That's
how am I
even-
supposed
it's so
to
much
turn
harder.
around to my husband and be like, yeah, that book we talked about, I'm going to write that full time.
Just to see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. So it is about really understanding what you want, but then also figuring out how can I do this responsibly, you know? And we met with a financial planner and we figured out what the numbers needed to be. And I picked up some consulting on the side where I help clients who want to, you know, learn how to use LinkedIn for social selling. So I do some of that still on the side because it does pay good money.
Yeah.
So it's like I can have my dream and do something else on the side
Yep.
and make it all work.
So when did the book come out?
September 14th, 2021. So
Okay.
it's only been
Okay.
about 6 months.
Yeah.
And we've already got over 1,000 copies sold, which
That's
is
awesome.
amazing for a self-published author because I
great.
don't have, you know, a traditional publisher helping me.
Oh,
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I know. I love
That's
it.
awesome.
You really made that happen. That's
Thank you.
awesome. I'm so glad we met. When she sat down, I was like, oh, friend.
Yes.
We had never met, but I was like, you're my friend.
You literally know everything about my
I know
life.
everything.
Yes.
I love that.
But yeah, it's available on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com,
Okay.
so people can go grab it. Or for those of you local in South Carolina, please go check out Fiction Addiction or any of the local Barnes & Noble stores. All of them have been fantastic and supportive, and they're all carrying a copy of it.
Where did I have mine on my phone I was reading. So
Sure, there's an ebook, so you can ebook
Yep.
or
Okay.
or hard
I got
copy.
my ebook. And then I was reading your book and with my dog and too busy.
I love it. It's all good. It happened.
Well, thank you for coming.
Oh my gosh!
you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Please
Yes.
pick out this amazing book and you will definitely laugh like I did. It's amazing. So
Yeah.
thank you again for coming. And we want to thank our sponsors real quick. Nest Realty, Leisa Johnson with Fairway Mortgage, Blackacre Law, Parham Smith Archenhold, Body Works, The Browning Studio, Dressed by Southern Girl Chic, and The Flowers by Penny Posies. So thank you all so much for your support, and we look forward to seeing you next time.